This might be the coolest house in the world. Okay, September 3rd, 9 a.m., Finance Committee. Amanda, could you call the roll?
Holt.
Here.
Ballard.
Here.
Curtis.
Here.
Sticknett.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Johnson. McTaggart.
Here. Call the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Mr. Holt. Do we have a second? Mr. Bowers. All in favor? Aye. Public comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to Meyer Munyon. No. Okay. I guess we'll skip over liability and general insurance update, go to Susie Werner, group insurance.
So I'm sorry I wasn't able to make the last two meetings. I believe that Joe has handed out the revised renewal. Health Alliance is coming back with 3% off, the 21% increase to get us down to 19%, which would be 2% off. Sorry about that. But they're also they want to give $86,000 in what's called implementation credit. It's a different bucket than the claims, if you will, or the renewal bucket, but they're saying if they would give you guys a check for $86,000, then you can supplement the rates to get it down to a 10% increase. Yeah, I think, was there questions on that as well?
And that's basically what you were telling us last time.
Right.
Yeah.
So it would be one lump sum check, and then you could use that to supplement the rate. So if you look at my spreadsheet, we kind of have it indicated at what it would be then at that increase with the HRA included. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, what would happen next year? Still, we got to take the whole increase again?
Well, next year they said if, depending on what it looks like renewal-wise, they will offer a rate cap. So if the loss ratio was under 80%, the renewal would not exceed 9%. So that's something we want to look at too. I'm still working with Health Alliance to see if we can get it down even more, because, you know, in the 11th hour they came back with additional credit or just additional rate relief. When I look at what they want to offer us, kind of like a guarantee for next year, I'd like to see if it's under 80%, I don't want it to exceed 5%, because we've had 4% renewals in the past. We've been able to get it down to that. So I'm still working with Susan on that, but right now they're saying we can offer the $86,000. And it doesn't mean that next year, you guys, we can't shop it too, because we do shop it with other carriers just to see what's out there. And I always go back and request rate relief and try to get as much as we can. We've had some really good years. This year was just a high claim year. There's some still large claims going on that are ongoing that they're still paying out on. So that's where we're getting that increase, unfortunately, this year.
And I think last time when we left off, you were getting some of those other quotes from the other companies.
Yes,
or
so
hadn't received them yet a month ago.
Blue Cross Blue Shield came in higher, but I did get United Healthcare, which was that included as well? Mm-hmm. Okay, so with United Healthcare, they're coming in with some good rates, but we have to look at, there's differences in the plans there. And with the way it's set up now, the claims feed automatically from Health Alliance to benefit planning consultants, BPC, and that's where that HRA is taken care of. So the claims are fed there automatically, and then checks are sent out to the employees once they've reached their deductible limit. United Healthcare won't allow that. They don't have that automatic feed. So it would be up to the employee to get that, that claim. They can send it through us, but it's gonna take them to take that EOB, send it to BPC or send it to us at Homestar to get it to BPC to process through the HRA. So it'd be a longer lag time if you go for that. It can be done, but it's just, I think employees are so used to having that automatic feed to Health Alliance at this time.
What's the difference? I don't know if I saw that. But, I mean, is it, I mean, compared to the Health Alliance?
So if do you want me to hand out my color one that has the prices?
I mean, obviously what they're doing sounds a lot easier than talking about half. Depends what the money is.
Okay, if you look at this, it shows the plan differences in red. Let me get my copy real quick. It is coming in with, this would just be a 1.95% increase in the rates from your current with Health Alliance, but you do have a lot of plan differences that are different than what we have with Health Alliance now through United Healthcare. Copayment would go up to a $30 copayment, but then that 19 and younger would be a $0 copayment. Specialists would be a $60 copayment. If they are a tier 1 provider, it would just be a $30 copayment. And then this is where it gets a little different with the deductible. It is a $5,000 plan deductible, but then they don't, right now you guys have a $7,350 and then 100% coverage after that. This would run a little differently. It would be a $5,000 deductible, and then insurance would pay 80%, and the member would pay 20% till they got to an out-of-pocket max of $6,350. And for family, that would be $12,700. And then ER copayment is a $200 or $250 copayment plus a 20% coinsurance.
Sorry. So it'd be 5,000, then they pay 80% until 6,350?
Which includes the 5,000, yes.
Okay. So it's almost better than the 7.
It would be less out of pocket, absolutely. But so there's just some variances. The co-payments are a little higher. Deductible and out of pocket is lower. Your prescription co-payments are a little different too. It is that $10 for a generic. It would be $40 for a preferred brand where they're paying $20 now. $75 for a non-preferred where they're paying $40, and then $125 co-payment for a preferred specialty. And again, the only other difference is you won't have that automatic claim fee to where it goes directly to Health Alliance. It would just have to be a manual process that can absolutely be done, and we would assist with that in any way.
So what's the difference to the county at the end of the day?
The difference is gonna be about $5,000.
Anyone got any questions or thoughts?
And that was per pay period, 5,000 per pay. So roughly about 200,000.
Okay, no, that's big money. I mean, it's probably too, can't necessarily make a decision on that in 1 second here, but I think it's worth looking into.
Understandable. And also think too, it would be less payout in the HRA by 1,000 per employee. I mean, when you're looking at the
Every
1,000.
employee would directly
Yeah.
have a lower maximum out of pocket.
A couple questions about the HRA.
Yeah.
Would it be the county's plan to leave the $1,000 as the deductible up front for the employees by selecting this plan? So meaning it would be a 5,000 deductible, first 1,000 would be the employee's responsibility again?
You can leave it the same way. So the way that would work is the first 1,000 would be your responsibility, and then anything over that would be reimbursed through the HRA. Even that co-insurance amount, because your deductible is included in that. So it would be less 1,000 there too, because it's only $6,350. And then the same for FOP would be the 500.
Well, I don't know what we need to do, Joe, but I would personally say we definitely need to get, with that kind of money at stake there, we need to look into it. I mean, and on the surface, it doesn't, I mean, the only thing that kind of sticks out to me as an employee is, okay, the insurance or the pharmacy co-pays are a little bit higher, but the deductibles lower and.
For the employee, that would stay the same. Their deductibles would stay the same. It would just be on the county's end that it would be, right?
Okay, yeah.
So things like that. And like I'll go back to Health Alliance and say, they're leaning towards United. What else can you do for us? And let's see if they come again and bring it down. I don't think we're gonna get down to where we're at with United, but If it's getting down more and they're also gonna give the 86,000, that's something to look at as well.
I think we have to look at it,
Oh,
unless somebody is opposed. Or has a reason not, I mean, it seems,
And if we did decide to do that, United Healthcare, can you meet with the employees again?
Oh my
like
gosh,
always do?
absolutely.
And would you have like information so that they can actually see?
Yes.
Look just like this. So that they can
Exactly.
see? Because I know when you say new insurance, everybody freaks
If
out.
they do, and we normally do a day and a half of a benefits fair, but I think we're gonna need to do a full week of just sitting here and having signups, because this, if we are gonna make the change, it's a whole new change.
Right.
They're gonna have to, like, my prescription might be covered here, but what is it with United? And I'll have my laptop, we'll be able to look all that stuff up for them and make sure they're feeling comfortable with things, because we just made the change this year to United, and it is, you know, prescriptions fall differently where they might with one carrier. It was already approved, and now, you know, you have to go through the approval process with United, so there are some hiccups that can happen with that, but let's, you know, we're always here to help. My team and I would be more than willing to be here to do open enrollment meetings, absolutely.
When do we have to have our decision?
Well, it's a 12-1 renewal. If we want to do the, if we are making a change, we're gonna wanna know soon so we can at least get everything implemented with United Healthcare so they can get their ID cards in time and everything. And also just educating them on having to turn in their EOBs on their own. Other than that,
there's nothing with like coverage in doctors and hospitals, or, I mean, are there?
They can see who they want.
yes, it's
I mean,
it's
is
the
that
core
massively different? I
PPO.
mean, it's-
So it's the core PPO network, which has the hospitals up here, Riverside, St. Mary's. You go up into Chicago. The only one that's not in network in Chicago is University of Chicago, but you have Loyola, Rush, and Northwestern. No referral needed to see any of them. And it is nice too, anyone with someone on their plan under 19 is a zero copayment, even if they're sick. So things to think about, but again, making the change can be scary for the employees. I'm gonna go back to Health Alliance again and let them know you guys are leaning towards this. And I'm also gonna see if they can come down more, but I'll also reach out to United to see if we can get a rate cap on it. If we are gonna make the change, can we get a rate cap of less than 7% on renewal for next year? Would that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll go back and.
Sorry, you said with United?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, to ask
I'm
them about that.
I'm gonna ask them
Okay,
for a rate cap, but
That'd
I'm
be
also
good.
gonna work on Health Alliance
Sure.
to see if they'll come down more on their renewal as well as the rate caps that they're offering for next year.
Right, okay.
Okay?
And as far as budgetary purposes, October would be when we probably need to make our decision.
Okay, and perfect. Delta Dental is getting a 2.5% decrease, so the dental's going down, and vision is still in a multi-year rate guarantee. Okay,
Very good.
awesome. All right, well, I will be in touch. I'll share my information with Jill and Amanda, and I'm sure they'll be able to share it with you guys then.
Thank you.
Awesome, we'll see you next month.
Yep. Okay, make sure we put that on the agenda. And department head reports. First here.
Yes, thank you. I'm here with Kristen Jackson, who's the Executive Director of the Child Network, which is a part of the Child Advocacy Center process. And so I wanted to kind of introduce her to the Finance Committee. And the reason we're here is there's a statute that was passed last year by the legislature in regard to the circuit clerk collecting money from people who plead guilty on her end, and then it gets sent to the treasurer. And so then there is a collection of money to be distributed, and it gets distributed to child advocacy centers, of which there is one in Iroquois County, and it's the only game in town. So we need to go to the county board to ask that money to be distributed to the child advocacy center. I have trouble with that word. I thought it was going to be more money than it is. It's only about $289. We'll work on that to make sure that that gets increased to the extent that we can, but we need to ask, Kristen needs to ask the county board for this to be released to her center, because it's the only game in town. So that's really, and she can tell you what she does. They do a great job. They do forensic interviews of sexual abuse victims. So we'll turn it over to Kristen just for a blurb of what you do.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'll stand up so I not hiding behind here. But, so we do have a Children's Advocacy Center here in Iroquois County. We established it in 2017, and at first we were using some donated space within the mental health center, and in October of 2019, we were able to secure our own office space in Jefferson Plaza here in Watsika. So we were glad to be able to do that to provide even more service to the children here in the community. So what we do at a Children's Advocacy Center, just really briefly, is to provide a coordinated approach to child abuse cases. So child abuse cases can include sex abuse cases, severe physical abuse cases, so like torture, confinement, burns, breaks, head trauma, those sort of things. And also when children are witness to violent crimes, so homicide, maybe severe domestic violence, things like that. We can provide services and forensic interviews for children at our center. And the goal is to bring the whole team involved in a case, so generally law enforcement, DCFS, prosecution, could be mental health, medical, and other victim advocacy agencies here in town together, so that the child is interviewed only one time by our trained forensic interviewer on staff, while all the team members involved can watch the interview live at our center. And really the whole goal of this model is so that the child's interviewed one time, right? So they're not having to be interviewed over and over and over by all these different disciplines. And so obviously reducing the trauma to the child, and also reducing the duplication of efforts that have to be made by all the teams here in town. And so we provide, like I said, forensic interviews at the Children's Advocacy Center, and we also have a family advocate who provides, crisis intervention to the non-offending family members of the child, and can provide referrals to other resources such as counseling, specialized medical exams, things like that, orders of protection, depending on what the circumstances of the case are. So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Just out of curiosity, how many cases do that, just for my own interest, do you guys go through a year, or I guess,
Right.
how does that all work?
So in just 2020, we've had 27 cases here in Iroquois County. And so that, I think, will even increase even more now that we have our own standalone office. Before, we were kind of at the mercy of the hours of the Iroquois Mental Health Center, which we were very appreciative of, but we had to work around their schedule. And now that our availability is wide open to the team members, we're hoping to see, we're not hoping to see an increase in the number of child abuse victims, obviously, but if there are reports, we're hoping to see an increase in the number of children that we serve at our center.
And it's at no cost to the client, so
Absolutely.
they pay nothing to receive these services.
Okay, thank you. I guess, what exactly do we need to do here?
So I'm seeking a motion to, and the statute is pretty clear, so it's 705 ILCS 135/10-5, subparagraph B, subparagraph 16. In each county in which a Children's Advocacy Center provides services, a Child Advocacy Center fund is specifically for the operation and administration of the Children's Advocacy Center, from which the county board shall make grants to support the activities and services of the Children's Advocacy Center within that county. So this is money that we're asking to be distributed to the Child Network, and it would be obviously used for Iroquois County. So I would ask that any money that's in that fund be released to
Joe.
Kristen's.
Joe's gonna make the motion. Do we have a second? Second. Sherry, and I need to take a vote.
Hall,
Yes.
Bowers,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sticknut,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Johnson, McTaggart.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You got anything else for us, Jim, or?
That's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Got anything?
Not
On your
really, I'm
claims?
just running the regular claims through here. I
Yep.
didn't have anything, and I was gonna be gone tomorrow, so we canceled the highway meeting, run claims through my end, so,
Very good.
so unless anybody's got questions.
Bree? Lisa, one last time?
One last time.
Sure everybody's aware we've had a couple of unfortunate events at the jail the past week. and we're firsts for me in 28 years. But so far, everything is going the way it should go. For those that don't know, the Illinois State Police came in. They are conducting the investigation, all the interviews, all of that stuff. So I won't know anything until they get done with their investigation. As far as they conducted all the interviews with staff, with inmates. They've collected everything that they need to collect, so they'll present me with a final report at some point. We did have a protest here, which is fine. We understand people are going to want to protest when they're upset about things. It went smoothly. It was for about 4 hours or so at the courthouse complex and jail complex. We didn't have any issues between protesters and those that came to see the protests. So that was my biggest concern, that we would have some issues between the two groups, and thankfully we did not. Other than that, see, the last time I reported to you guys, the 2 new deputies are finally out on their own. Their police academy training got delayed a little bit due to COVID, so they ended up graduating about 6 weeks later than we thought they were going to graduate. They finally got out, I think it was around June 5th, and then they went through about 9 weeks of field training with veteran deputies, but they are on their own now, so I've got an extra person on night shift now, which is nice. Other than that, I just had, well, I guess before all of this happened, I know Jill had sent me an email to come and address you folks on some of the things that I had requested in this year's budget, and I'll do that when we get to that point. But other than that, I just have some questions on some accounts, and I guess we can go over that during the budget time.
Okay, that's fine. Kurt?
Yesterday was, September 1st was second last day for collection on second installment. We waived penalties yesterday since we had to make an early exit on Monday. So as of today, penalties on any payments now are back on for first and second installments. We will have a distribution towards the end of the month, which will be our second one, and that should be about it, I think. So, if somebody else has some.
How have I guess we've probably got the sheet here somewhere, but how have the collections, I mean, what month are we on now, or that we've collected from the state as far as like sales tax and those things?
Down here, I have to ask Sam. I'm not sure what month we're up to on sales tax. I'll have to talk to her and see, because she keeps track of all that, so I can find that out here in a little bit. So.
But things don't, I mean, they're still...
Yeah, they're still coming in like they always have, and we just haven't heard any more from them because they're still working remotely as to if anything's down, or, there's gonna be some amounts down, but, nobody there knows what's going on either, because nobody's working in their office, so.
Okay. Bob?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Eric? Eric?
I have one new hire that started on August 24th, so they're about 2 weeks into their training now. Total training is about 8 weeks, so overtime's still going to be on the high side. That also includes vacations. I reported to the Judicial Committee yesterday. They were at 207.5 hours, which also included 43 hours of me working on the radio, absorbing some of that time. I've been requested by my board to include some more hours on the radio. I don't know where that number is going to land. I'm only one person. I still have to manage that team, so I'm not sure where that number is going to actually land at the end of the day. Also, I did want to make a commendation to the Sheriff's Department as well as Watsika PD during those protests. They did an absolutely fine job trying to handle all of that.
I saw the news in the news feed. I should have said something too, but it looked like you guys did a really good job, Sheriff. I know it's a difficult situation. So. guess that's everyone. Jill, do you have any?
Budget stuff,
Budget.
just a brief update on the phones, they're still working. All the cabling has been ran. They are currently in the server room located in the finance center, starting to switch things over gradually. And we're still hoping tomorrow to turn them on, but it may be Tuesday.
And the other, this is an IT committee or whatever, but I guess it's money related, so we did get the insurance.
Yeah, we did,
Money set.
we got the insurance for a little over 27,000.
That definitely helps. Okay. We're done with that, then, Ginger, oh, hi, Ginger.
Hi. Most of you know me, Ginger Mace from U of I Extension. I'm going to talk a little bit about the levy. The current levy is $111,300, and I'm asking to keep it the same. Just to kind of give you a little report about what's been going on with COVID. We have actually all been working remotely. We started to come back to work the middle of August, and then kind of had to back up a little bit. I know this county had a spike in snow week. The university has been having us look at that a little bit, but we've all been working remotely. Actually, our reach has gotten bigger, which you would think the only place where I feel like it hasn't is in 4-H. You know, that's kind of a thing where you want to be a little more high touch. But in all our other programming, we've actually increased with webinars, etc. So we are seeing actually a bigger reach, which we needed to go that way anyway. The younger people want to get things more through the online methods. Anyway, we worked really hard though with the 4-H this summer to do an online fair, which was kind of crazy. I mean, I thought it was kind of crazy. But, anyway, our plan is to open the office to the public on the 14th of this month. We already have staff coming in. Because that was my big fear, is to make sure I could get people back, and that's been a little bit difficult. But we have people coming in now about 3 days a week. So a fear up here has always been in you know, am I going to close the office? No. You know, we're going to continue. We're going to try to open as well as we can. We have to follow the university. Those of us that live in Champaign have to get tested twice a week. So. I don't have COVID, just so you know. But you know, so we want to make sure our staff are safe. We want to make sure our clients are safe. You know, we had a outdoor meeting with our master gardeners here. So essentially, we're trying to still do programming, and we will do programming and continue. Budget-wise, the state did pay us. They paid us finally for FY19 and half of FY20. The matching fund. So we're actually in pretty good shape right now. We haven't been doing a lot of travel and some of those kind of things. I have a secretary that I need to hire in this office. I've been having people come up and cover. I had the position in place, but it happened right when we left for COVID. So that's why it's not filled. I was able to get our 4-H person position for Iroquois County filled right before that. So, and she's really good, and I think people have worked well with her. So things are different, but you know, we continue. So I do have copies of our budget, okay, so for people to look at. So any questions as we go along. I try to be good, a good steward of the money that I get. It generally pays for salaries of staff and rent. I mean, that's what the local funds are meant to pay for. So.
Thanks for coming.
Okay.
Yeah, you can pass them.
I'll just pass them out here. There we go. Anybody else need one? Okay,
Thanks.
there you go.
Anyone have any questions for Ginger? Not, we'll move on to the audit engagement letter. Did you send that to everyone?
I did.
I know I saw it, didn't check.
We can do it.
I guess the good news is it was below what we had as a placeholder in the budget,
As long
so.
as you guys are comfortable.
Yeah, I originally budgeted 55,000.
I don't know.
came in at
I'll try to call him on
27.
mine, but yeah.
The reason it came in a little bit lower is we haven't used Hope as much as we did in the prior year. And it also still includes the cipher audit, which they now have to include in their audit, whereas last year they did not have to include it. She assisted with it as it was new to them and it was new to me. But this year I have done everything on my own and I just submitted it to her for review. And then it already has been submitted to the state, so we're awaiting approval from that. Might take a while because the one that I submitted last year, I just got the certificate probably about a month or two ago. So they're a little behind. But yeah, excited to see that number come in a lot lower.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the letter. Charlie, do you want a second? Sherry? Any comments or questions for Jill or anybody? If not, we'll take a vote.
Alt,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Sticknot.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. McTaggart.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the fiscal year 21 budget. It's, as far as the general fund goes, I think all the people on the committee here got the paper that Jill sent out. It's still on my phone, but it looks like we're budgeted to be a little over break even on the general fund.
Yeah,
Just
just
drop
to
it in the
remind
appendix.
everybody, I did lower the replacement tax to 200,000 from 220,000. Let me read my notes here. The other thing I did do was I took a look at the salaries because we originally had talked about a 2.5% increase for employees. But with AFSCME contracts coming up soon, and we're hoping to settle on a date, hopefully today if I can get a hold of Mr. Hibbett. And with the minimum wage expectations over the next couple of years, I went ahead and changed that to a 3% increase. Just to be on the safe side as far as, the way I looked at it is if they do a 3% increase this year and then a 4% the following next 2 years, then we're gonna be right in line with the requirements for minimum wage. So those were the two major adjustments that I took a look at and changed on the current sheet, which is showing the $981 positive in the general fund.
And I think the good thing is that on our revenue items, we have been using the lower, as you said,
Yes.
moved down the replacement tax. We have
And I kept the lower
the
property
lower
tax.
property tax number
Mhm.
between Kurt and Bob's. So I think we're being somewhat conservative in those, hopefully that, and then, you know, well, and hopefully if we can get this group insurance down, that'll cover any other exposure we might have on the revenue.
Correct. I think the main thing from last time I had notes that we wanted to look at the public safety tax fund, and that's why it was requested that sheriff be here.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to start there.
I think one thing before that, I was talking with Joe would talk with Joel, and he kind of felt in line with the parking lot number, or number that Chris had come up with, or I guess we had gotten a quote from, or a rough estimate from whoever it was.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't remember what company he said, but yeah.
he kind of agreed with the thinking that it needed to be done and what the cost generally was in line. So that's already in the budget, but just, I think that was one item we had talked about. That's in the general fund, correct?
Correct.
Correct, so.
No,
before we get on-
I'm sorry. The parking lot is out of the capital improvements
Capital
fund.
improvements, okay, so.
Yeah, and it is budgeted for the 120, which includes the lot that needs to be done over the
Courthouse
courthouse.
or whatever, yeah, okay. So then, I think, within reason, the general fund and most of the other funds are okay. The only thing that we haven't really had an in-depth discussion about, like Jill just said, was public safety, and I guess, Sheriff, you said you might have some questions or comments on some other accounts too, that, I guess.
Just to remind everybody, the committee requested that Sheriff be here, is why I requested for him.
Yeah, that's fine. I want to make as many of these as I can.
Well, we appreciate it.
My question, I guess, under this fiscal year so far, I've been looking at it, and I know this fiscal budget was the salary and benefits for 2 deputies to be taken out, and I don't know if that's just going to be a year end where they're just going to yank it all out at once, which is fine, but I have not seen any disbursements coming out of there to
You
pay
mean
for
public
that
safety? Yeah.
from the public safety. So that being said, I think at one point it was around 115,000. I thought for everything, for the 2 salaries and benefits and all that. And then I also know last year that 911 had requested, I think, 135,000 out of it for. I don't know if it was in case they didn't get a grant or to help with the grant, or I don't remember the exact verbiage. But my question was, the last disbursement we got from public safety, or from the state for public safety tax, was August 10th, and that was between almost 32,000. Which I've kind of been watching those numbers, and I haven't seen, with the COVID, I haven't seen a huge drop in those numbers, a little if any. So currently, there's almost 514,000 in public safety, and I'm figuring roughly about 30,000 a month for the next 3 disbursements we get before the end of the fiscal year, which will put it right at about 600,000. And then if the 115 and the 135 both come out at that time, it'll take it down to about 350. I also looked at, as of today, the 911 has about 827,000 in it, and they, I think they bring in, I know they bring in more than 30,000. I'm thinking on a couple of their things for their fees and that it's probably between 40 and 45,000 a month that they bring in. So I guess my question is, does that 135,000 still have to come out to go to 911 for whatever it was they requested? And if there's funds in the 911 fund to cover that 135 if they have to this fiscal year.
Okay. There was, what, 2 things. One, I know there was basically money to cover salaries, right? Is that the 100?
No, for FY20, and correct me if I'm wrong, the money requested was to subsidize any sort of equipment cost until Eric received your grant money. But you have received your grant money, correct?
That's correct.
So there hasn't been any request from Eric to transfer any of that public safety tax money. And then this year for FY21, the request is for subsidizing salaries.
Okay.
All right, so let me add to that. Last year, the Finance Committee found it, because the request was to keep it equal between the city of Waseca, Iroquois County, and the ETSD, That was part of that 135, was to make it equal. It wasn't necessarily because of that grant money one way or the other, it was to make it equal across the board.
You need to clarify, you're talking about joint dispatch, which is not the same as 911.
That's correct. The 827,000 that's sitting in the ETSB's coffers are different funds. That is funds that's coming from the surcharge. Sheriff is correct. It's in between the 40 to 45,000 monthly distributions that we do get from that. Part of that, we also need to remember our operating budget is about $520,000. That's the expectation of funds that are going to be coming into us with this fiscal year, and I'm also predicting about the same because of the way that they have done the ETS Act. They've extended that out for one more year. One of the main things to remember, yes, 827,000 is just about a year and a half's worth of funds. If all of that were to dry up tomorrow, this county would be responsible for all of those funds. ETSB going into fiscal year 21 is contributing $240,000, which is significantly more than the equal shares that we've been trying to get to. The county is paying, what is it, about $87,000 this year, or going into fiscal year 21, and so is the city of Watsika. With the COVID expectation that some of the sales tax money and so on is going to be lower, ETSB did step up to the plate to request that the ETSB contribute another $150,000 plus the $135,000. Wrong.
But the 135, I think Jill's right. I mean, that was had to do with the equipment.
Yeah, I had it in my.
We put it into joint dispatch for ease of moving money around, so this way it can stay on there. But we do have equipment. We are working through an RFP right now to purchase a CAD system. That doesn't have anything to do with grant money. The $156,000 that we received was for a phone system that was already purchased. That phone system cost the ETSB $180,000 in 2016 and 2017 in total cost.
I guess my question is this, and I have slept a little bit since last budget season, but the 135 at that time, to me, it would make more sense if it's going to go to help operate joint dispatch or to offset that cost, then why run it through 911 to then go to joint dispatch? Why not the county just give the public safety techs the 135 directly to joint dispatch? Last year, it was they were talking about equipment. They were talking about if certain grants didn't come in, they would need some funds, and so that's why I'm here asking if they got the grants for the equipment that they were expecting this year, does that 135 still need to go to them? And as far as things drying up, I mean, we could say that with anything. I know the sunset got extended on the cell fees. I think it was supposed to, I think when it originally went in, where 911 was collecting more money through fees, when that originally went in, I think it was set to expire back in July of this year, and that got extended. So
December 31st of this year is when it was originally supposed to. Now it's been reset to go to December 31st of 2021.
Okay, so I'm not going to, I'm just going to give you my opinion on this. There's very few, and talking to sheriffs, and a lot of sheriffs run their dispatch center, which I'm glad that we have somebody that runs it. But if the state of Illinois doesn't renew that funding on how they're collecting it right now, whether it's each year or put it out for years at a time, there's going to be the vast majority of 911 centers in the state of Illinois are going to have problems. It's not just going to be Iroquois County.
Right.
So, it's not like we're trying to figure a fix for a local problem and everybody else in the state is doing fine. That's statewide. So, right now, I'm just trying to get through year by year, and the request this year for 2021, the deputy salaries and benefits are for the current ones that we hired in 2020. Well, they actually got hired December of 19, but in the 2020 budget. So there's no new hires in there in what I've proposed. That's just to take care of the ones that we did hire. And then the vehicles, I think the equipment costs were less this year because last year we did a few extra things to get some stuff up to where we needed. So that's for my 2021. There's no new hires in there planned. It's to keep the current 2 people that we hired this past fiscal year or this current fiscal year. And
So while we're on that.
yes,
That adds some clarity, because I think that was one of the questions we had for you, or why I wanted to get clear on that, so I think that adds clarity to that. My question for Jill then is, are we double counting this in the general fund? Because I thought just so you know the background, I had asked Jill, and I thought we had those 2 new guys in your sheriff normal budget, and then we had it in the public safety, but I don't know that the money's
That's
going
how-
across, or,
Right.
some of the way we account for this, I agree, is a little.
That's how I originally did the budget worksheets, was I included the 2 new deputies into the regular salaries in the general fund. That can be changed.
Okay, but the point is, we got it in 2 spots, or we need to transfer the money from public safety, however we do this.
Depends on,
But
it depends on what the
the point
committee wants
is
to do with
that
the public
we're-
safety tax money, yeah.
There's,
yes.
okay,
So basically, yeah, one of 2 things is going to have to happen. Either there's going to be an end of the year transfer lump sum out of public safety over to my budget, or if you just want to take those 2 deputy salaries out of my budget, which lessens that, and have them monthly taken out of public safety fund.
whatever, I
It'd be easier to just transfer it.
just transfer the money, but we need to make a line item in his general fund budget then to show a transfer from
Right.
public safety to cover that part, right?
Right. And then if I take those 2 deputies paid out, that'll increase
If we
our.
leave them in there. Well, anyways, we need
Whatever
to
we
get that
decide to
straightened
do.
out.
Mhm.
So, but that helps, that provides a lot of the clarity that we were looking for there.
Mhm.
And then, I think one of the other things, Jill refreshed my memory because it's been a month, but where we had questions about the cell blocks and stuff too, is that? Like, as far as, I know you had told us that we can do it in stages or whatever, and I guess.
Yeah, basically what not to interrupt you, Jill, I'm sorry for that. We periodically I get mailings from companies that do this, retrofit current jails. And so I believe on one of them, it was, hey, we'll come out and take a look at it and tell you what we think. And they did, and we got a total cost for it. And this is not changing the structure of the jail at all. It's not even changing the structure of the cell blocks in the jail. All it is replacing the doors in the cell blocks. And so we got that number, and we, just to give us a ballpark of what it was we were looking at to do it entirely. And I don't remember if it was 125 or
Yeah,
what.
125 is what we.
Okay.
Yeah,
Roughly, and that was not the exact thing because I didn't want to make known who did this for us with what they said, because if it's something that's decided to do the entire project, and obviously it's going to have to be bid out, and then it's unfair to this company that came and did this for us. So based on what we looked at, we figured that number of 125 would do it. It doesn't have to be done today. It's gonna have to be done at some point. And it is something that could be done in stages, I guess, because we have individual cell blocks. We could do it upstairs, downstairs, or a first floor, second floor, whatever, however you wanted to do it. But ultimately, I think at whatever point the committee decides to, or the board decides to spend money in that, it would probably be best to get it all done at once, would be my preference. But how the jail is broken up into separate cell blocks, it necessarily wouldn't have to, but that was just food for thought for you folks, that, that's something that we could get done and needs to be done, because, the people that can come in and see what broke and create us those parts are now becoming fewer and fewer and fewer, so.
Excuse me, was for all of it, 125 is for all.
Yes.
Derek, are there other things that are gonna need to be upgraded in the building?
And the jail, no, we're pretty good. I mean, the roof was done a few years back, actually the same time, I think about the same time, or maybe the year before this roof here was done. I can't think of anything else that needs to be done. No, nothing comes to mind that, other than routine maintenance. Yeah, Charlie.
There's no difference in total cost if you do it in stages and if you do it in one shot. Seems like it'd be a savings if you did it by one shot.
I would say it probably would be. We didn't ask to do it in stages. It's just, I offered that, because how we're broken up. It's not like, we could do certain cell blocks if we wanted, and those would be fine. Those would not interfere with the older doors operating and vice versa. But yeah, I'm sure it would be cheaper in the long run to do it in one shot, because they would be down here with everything they needed and not have
I
to
don't
come
want to
back.
put it off, but I'd like to know that figure.
Yeah.
But
we can sure reach out to them and see what they have to say. I know they would prefer to do it all in one shot.
that's why I feel they give me a good break on it.
Yeah.
No, okay, so, I was just trying to think that, while you guys were talking there about some of this with this group insurance thing, if we can get this down, maybe we can move some of these things back to the general fund, rather than have them in the public safety, or
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, in your budget worksheets, the 2 new deputies are already
there.
in there for the
Right,
general.
so that would essentially, okay, and then there's still theoretically, if we did this group insurance thing, there's
Right,
still more room
there
there.
would be some
So
in there.
really, out of the sheriff, like true dollar, we already got the 150, I guess what essentially the 150, the new employees
Mhm.
accounted for in your general fund budget. So really, out of what's left then,
Is the
there's
125
the
for this,
125 for the jail cells and the
And
2 new
then-
vehicles. So
right,
like
and then the
225.
100,000 for, the 2 new vehicles. And then 15,000, I would say, for uniforms and equipment, it looks like,
That we didn't have,
for the deputy.
probably like 240. I think the 150 for next year on the 911 were, I guess it's left pocket, right pocket at some point, but
Well, the 150 is for joint dispatch,
or sorry.
for FY '21.
Joint dispatch, I'm sorry, I'm doing what everybody else does too.
No, you're fine.
Yes, I mean, to a certain degree, that number has to, I think this 135, my memory seems like it was more like what the sheriff said, but do you recall, John, on what,
Last year,
I guess your point, just sorry, 1 second. The point is that at some point, there's no more money left in the public safety if we do all these things, because the original request, you were 375, and his 150 for next year is 525, and if we only collect 30,000 a month, we're only gonna take in 360, and if
I think we're still on.
we're spending more than we're taking in.
It's right around 400,000, I think, yearly is what we bring in on it, because It ranges in the low 30s to the high 30s from month to month, but yes.
Okay, sorry.
I think there's a lot of things about the whole 911 system that need to either be clarified or understood. First of all, it's about $1,200,000 to run that whole program. There's $520,000 that comes in from the cell phone surcharge fee. That leaves a huge gap. And the county has the responsibility of funding the dispatchers, which is a part of that $1,200,000. So last year, the idea was that the county and the city of Watsika and the ETSB would all contribute the same amount of money. To help the ETSB's part of that was the $135,000 that went from public safety to ETSB and then came back to joint dispatch. It was a roundabout way of doing it, but was intended so that all three entities would be contributing the same amount of money. This year, because of the COVID and other matters, it's decided to abandon that concept, and the county is, like you said earlier, about 87,000, whatever that number is. And the city of Watsika is that same number. So ETSB is contributing a larger amount of money, but it's still part of the county's responsibility. That's where this additional money from public safety is making up the difference. I don't know if I'm saying that clear enough for everybody to understand, but that's kind of the
And I understand that
that's
part.
kind of where we're at. I mean, we have an obligation to provide that service, and it's incumbent upon the county to finance it. And we just don't have any other source of revenue to do it. Last month, the treasurer reported almost $70,000 deficit in that fund.
Which fund is that?
Joint dispatch fund.
Okay.
Joint dispatch currently is at a deficit of $45,000.
We got a check for $30,000 from Riverside, which helped to reduce that down, but it's still, we're still running at a deficit or barely keeping our head above water on that fund. And we're subject to almost a 5% increase in the wages of those telecommunicators every year. So we got that to look at in the coming year and the years ahead as well. I've been on record as saying that I do not like the idea of using public safety money to pay people's salaries. I think people's salaries should be funded elsewhere. And the public safety money should be used for equipment or special situations that arise, which we seem to encounter almost every year. My hope is that this year we'll be able to leave as much money in the public safety fund as we possibly can to look at as an emergency situation in case our revenue because of COVID over the coming year is less than what we anticipate it to be.
Cool.
I think part of the justification for that is if you look at the numbers for this year, our expenses are higher, going to be projected to be higher than the budget. We're going to be projecting to run a deficit this year. Even though we think we have a balanced budget for next year, if our revenue doesn't come in the way we anticipate it will, and that's we're projecting this year's revenue to be less than what we anticipated and our expenses to be higher. If we run into the same situation next year, I think it would be wise for us to maintain a healthy balance in the public safety fund to offset any of those situations that could occur. Hope they don't, but you never know.
I think I understand all the stuff for what we're talking about for 2021, but I do, the 135, and again, probably missed the October meeting last year because I was in a combine, but I thought
Does Jill have notes on it?
yeah, I mean, and maybe we gotta give to Bob.
I'll
What
go
the
back
sheriff
and
said
clarify.
reminded me of what I thought we talked about, but it's been a year. I don't.
Are all the other contributors for that up to par too? I know we had issues with Gilman. Have they paid? Have they not paid? Are they behind? Or, you know what I'm saying? Is everybody caught up?
For this year, yeah, they're pretty much all caught up, except for a few quarterly payments that they have time.
Okay, I didn't know Gilman actually.
Gilman is not paid.
No.
That's a different subject.
Gilman hasn't.
Is that? How's that going?
You have to ask the sheriff, that's what he's supposed to be working on.
Well, I meant with just that, the contract deal. Are they not gonna pay for the dispatching stuff or?
I haven't pursued it aggressively with them because we were supposed to be entering into an agreement to provide police protection over there, and we figured that would
You were gonna
alter
kind
that
of meld
quite a
the
bit.
two, gonna kind of meld the two things together to.
I don't know what the status of it is, the sheriff working on that, I guess.
Yeah, I can get to that in a minute. My concern on it is this, is that I understand the chairman's viewpoint on salaries, but my take on it is, can the board look for another way for their share of joint dispatch? Because my quick figures, and they're by no means to the dollar, but since we've been collecting public safety money, if the 135 from this year goes to ETSB or wherever it's gonna go, ETSB, I guess, to reimburse them for what they're paying, and then another 150 in fiscal year 21, over the last several years, there's been 605,000 come out of public safety to go to ETSB and joint dispatch related issues. The 300,000 for the dispatchers originally, then the 20,000 a couple months ago to make whatever the retro pay that wasn't right, and then 135 this year and 150 next year. And then compare that to the first year that the sheriff's office got money out of that was equipment only, and I think it was around 185,000. Last year, it was personnel and equipment, and it was about 295,000. So, I mean, and then this year, it's going to put it at, I can't remember my exact total I had. If you take the 125 out if you don't do the jail project, and I don't even remember if I put that coming out of public safety or not. I did?
Yeah.
Okay, so that 125 if we take that out for the doors, what would I be asking for?
240,000. So
Okay.
it would be the 125 for the jail, the 100,000 for the vehicles, and then 15 for training and equipment.
Easy. What you originally asked for was 375, 125
Okay.
was.
Okay, so down to 250.
But what I think Jill was trying to say is that we already have those deputies in your general fund budget.
Mhm.
So
you're not planning on taking their salaries out of this?
It's an option, whatever the committee wants.
it's
to
an
do.
option,
Okay.
I guess. I mean, that's what I would, yeah.
But as of right now.
Technically, we're
I've
double
left it
counting
in.
because you got it in the public safety and we have it in your general fund budget. But there's no transfer over in the 2021 thing.
Right, I left it in the general fund sheriff's budget line.
So if we just took it out of
Just so
public safety and
in
left it in the
case-
general fund.
Right, in case you decide not to take it out of public safety tax and we put it back into the general fund, we're not scrambling to look at numbers and, because that would put us under again. So, that's
So
why
if we
I
took that
left
out,
it in.
He'd have, I think there's $15,000 worth of uniforms and stuff
Mhm.
that she doesn't have in there.
Right,
The 100,000 for the trucks. or
yeah, if you
whatever.
take out their salary and benefits, you still have the 125 for the jail doors, the 100 for vehicles, and then the 15,000 that's listed for,
Uniforms.
uniforms and equipment.
So then okay,
That'd
so,
be like 240 if we kept the jail doors in.
yeah,
If you took the jail doors out, you'd be at
115.
15.
Right.
So then if we throw that 115 on what has been paid out for things at the sheriff's office, that basically puts them that puts them at, 595,000 that has gone towards that, but, you know, at least a little over half the disbursements that have come out of that public safety fund have either been directed to 911 or joint dispatch. And my question, I guess, would be is, you know that your costs are going to continue to go up for joint dispatch. They go up for everything. So each year, is it going to be dipping more into the public safety fund to cover that, or is there other options you can look at as how you're going to cover your share of joint dispatch?
I agree with you. I mean, I think, to me,
What's your
the
plan?
current model, I don't know that there's a good plan, but there needs to be something because it is unsustainable.
Nobody has any other source of money to do that.
Well,
That's the reason we're doing, not because we want to.
all I can say is
If you
that,
can get the General Assembly to raise the surcharge like they should, we might be able to have something done there. And then we're talking to Tom Bennett about sponsoring that, but that's ways down the road.
I guess it won't happen in the next, I guess I'll have one more budget to do after this, but, at some point, the way it's going, I'm looking down the road, and at some point, the way it's going, you're not gonna be able to sustain the salary and, benefits for the 2 deputies that were hired out of this, because, more and more of that is going to other things.
I've been saying that right along, we're not gonna be able to sustain the salaries for any of these employees that are getting 5% increase every year. Because our revenues aren't going up by that amount. So we don't have any choice.
So I guess the purpose, I'm glad we're having this discussion. My main focus was, if I'm rating things here, does that 135, is it still planned to come out and go to joint or 911?
We probably need to look at them notes or whatever, because my memory was closely aligned with what you had said, Sharon. But obviously Eric has a difference of opinion on that, and
I have the minutes in front of me if you'd like me to read that excerpt. I don't think we're gonna get any farther with it, just skimming through it, but I can if you wish. Okay. 911 Director Eric Raymond informed the committee that the ETSD is meeting next Wednesday to discuss and improve their budget. Sure commented that when ETSD last met to review the budget, it was discussed to have the city, county, and ETSD contribute $120,000 each to joint dispatch. It was determined that there would be a shortfall of approximately $135,000. By doing so, Sure said that his recommendation is to fund $135,000 from public safety to ETSD. It was moved by Johnson and seconded by Young to reduce 911 Director Eric Raymond's public safety fund request from $200,000 to $135,000. The public safety fund request for the sheriff will remain at $295,600. A roll call vote was taken. Motion carried.
well, my memory's not good then.
I guess mine isn't either, other than the transferring of it. I
have not transferred anything. I spoke with Hope about this in the beginning once it was decided, and it was agreed upon that a one-time lump sum would be best.
I think, first and foremost, to me, I think the sheriff's point is absolutely correct, and I guess John's reiterating it, is that this is unsustainable the way we do unless we have a new revenue stream from somewhere, we can't afford to do these things, and eventually there's going to be a big problem in the county. And I guess continually paying it out of the public safety fund is a temporary solution, but it is a real solution, because the reality is that it's unsustainable.
If I can make another comment, I agree, I wholeheartedly agree with what Chairman Scher and Sheriff is saying on the unsustainable portion of it. I don't think any of us don't disagree there. Before COVID and this pandemic hit, my original plan was pull to everybody to go even keel through it, minus whatever we were asking for other intergovernmental contracts. The way that COVID hit us and the expectation of our funds, whether county and or city, my original plan was everybody was going to go equal shares, whatever that would have turned into. With this, ETSB, again, they stepped up to it. They're putting in 240. There's not a finalized budget yet. Their next meeting is next Wednesday after your county board to discuss it. It seems to be a good possibility they may decide to approve their budget at the 240. Next year, God willing, things get better to a status quo. Everybody has a better idea of what's going to be flowing in. It would be an attempt to get us back to whatever that normal may be, which would not include as much coming from public safety tax money. If I can avoid it all, I will.
If I may ask, what is the, outside of the 115,000, since you're not as of right now, that 115,000 would be for the vehicles and the uniforms and that, not deputy salaries, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then what you're telling me is, in a roundabout way, the deputy salaries that are in my budget have already been covered by some other means.
Yes, I have
Okay.
As of now, they
yeah,
are.
I have
But like I said,
711,000 and
some
some
of it's-
change in the deputies line,
Okay.
and that's
Very good. Okay,
that's fine.
that
They're
answers that.
covered, but I guess it's, to some degree, it's semantics, is that, okay, do we put money going back to you from the public safety and the general fund pays more of Eric's, or, I mean, but I guess I was just doing the math, that's why I was looking at my phone, but in theory, there's enough money to do, again, and before John says it, assuming our revenue numbers are not crazy,
Sure.
there's, we're talking about 115 and 150, so 265 out of, as you pointed out, a theoretical 400. And if we pay out you said at the end of the year, we're gonna have 600, we pay out your 115 and his 135, we're down to like 350 when we start the year.
Yes.
And we would,
And then when I looked at
then we
that,
add another 400, so it'd be up to 750 and pay.
Well, this is one of those funds where you kind of want what's coming in to kind of go out. You don't want it to just sit there. Because then you're gonna, come across why we're paying all these taxes for this public safety
Sure.
tax, and it's just sitting there.
Fair enough.
So essentially, if you do the 125 and the 115 for sheriff and keep the 150 for joint dispatch, you're at 390, which we're projected to bring in around 400,000. And then
So we'd
with
have an ending balance at the end of next year of
right,
350.
you'll still have a balance of the 300 that we were talking about left over from this year.
that's basically what I was just putting pen to paper on, that,
I think it's all doable, but the problem still exists.
yes.
Exactly.
Down the
Exactly.
road, we got a problem. And there is some buffer there for John's rainy day fund, which is a legitimate point.
We all hope that it won't happen, but
No, I agree.
just looking at the numbers for this year, like I said, our expenses are projected to be higher than the budget.
And quite frankly, to help cover some of that, what we might do is say, okay, so all of that can be done without really changing much. And there's still 350 left at the end of next year. If we get this group insurance thing done, and we save 200 there, that can be our rainy day fund for
The general.
COVID BS next year. We move down our tax revenue items by a corresponding amount or whatever to,
Yeah, and
be
and
more
I, and
conservative
again,
there.
I still left in the lower, numbers.
we're already
that were originally
taking the
given.
conservative numbers, but we still have some, I mean, quite
Right.
a
A little
substantial
bit of
buffer
room.
there too. So I think it's all doable for 2021. It's just your point about, everybody's point about
Mhm. Salary.
these numbers
Yeah.
going at this crazy rate or
So what I'm getting out of this whole conversation is out of public safety tax, you want to keep the 125 for the jail doors and the 115, and then the 150 is going to dispatch, correct? Is that kind of what we were just,
I think so.
okay.
I mean, unless someone has other thoughts, I think that happens. The deputies are covered in the general fund. Hopefully at the end of next year, we have 350 left in the public safety going into a new fiscal year. And then we hopefully have some more buffer in the group insurance from a general fund perspective above the $900 we have right now.
All right, well, thank you. And just a point of clarification, I was assuming when we were talking these that the deputy salaries were going to come out of
Well,
public safety. So
They are for FY20, but for FY21, I was trying to keep it clean.
that's very good.
So-
Thank you.
That was just.
Okay.
And that was some of
as
why we
many
wanted you to come,
salaries
because
as we could keep
you
out
had
there.
it here, which is not, I mean, I understand what you were doing,
Mhm.
but I know Jill, because I was asking Jill about this, like, and I knew she had it there, and I just wanted to make sure we weren't talking about two new guys.
No,
Yeah.
In addition to the two guys we just got, and that was the part we were,
Mhm.
I think it's all clear now, but, and hopefully, we were, I guess thankfully double counting and not under counting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you want to go on repair?
Yeah, the other thing, just quickly, the vehicles. Where, I know it always has confused me, but you got 2-car vehicles and single-car vehicles, and now we got 2 new deputies and all that kind of stuff, like, where, I guess, can you help us
Sure.
understand all the vehicles? I think we got a list somewhere
we
last time.
we do have some deputies that are assigned a vehicle and they don't share it with anyone. Excuse me, those deputies, all the deputies work 4 10-hour days, so they have 3 days a week off. When we share cars, obviously they're running 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we put miles up on them faster, we have to get rid of them sooner, more maintenance on them. And so my goal has always been to, at some point, and I don't know, I mean, I don't think I'll get it done, but before I'm done. But if at some point, most counties, the deputies have their own squad cars, and it's a savings to them because, how I just mentioned, they're not on the road every day, less miles, you get more years out of them, less wear and tear on them. So right now, currently, I think we have 6 of the 12 road deputies. We have 6 of them that have their own vehicle, and then we have 3 vehicles that are shared by 2 deputies each. For years, we always went with the Chevy Impala, because it was the cheapest thing out there. When we went to get rid of them 3 years later with 160, 70,000 miles on them, they weren't worth very much. They were nickel and diming us and this and that. So Chevy's not offering that package anymore. So we've gone to the sport utility and the pickup package, which a lot of sheriff's offices are going to. We've got, out of those, 2 deputies share one of the trucks and 2 deputies share one of the Tahoes, so those are getting double miles put on them. But even when we go to get rid of them, they're going to have a better resale or trade-in value, I guess, on them. And they help us a little bit more some of the environment we have to go into. We have to sometimes go down some roads or down some paths and this and that to get to where we're going that trucks and, your roads are all good, Joel.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Easy,
Joel,
easy. The truck, I saw that on the corner of my eye. That it's just easier for a truck or a sport utility to go down. And so that's why we've gone to those. They are a little more expensive, but with how they're set up and being a truck and SUV style frame, they take the wear and tear a little better than what a car does. So where we're at is 6 of the deputies are assigned a vehicle themselves. The other 6 share a vehicle, two to a vehicle. We did get a transport van, a new one for us. It's a 2019 that had, I think, 30-some thousand on it that we're using to transport prisoners. The last van we had was, I think, 16 years old, and then each investigator has a vehicle and the sheriff has a vehicle as well. So these 2, I'm still running. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 Impalas. I think 4 Impalas.
I didn't share that.
2 of the 2 squads that I'm going to replace, or that I'm asking to replace in 2021, will replace 2 of those Impalas.
You said 4 doesn't make any, right?
Yeah,
I'm
They're kind of cutting down on making their.
a lot of police packages now. The sedans are going away. They're crossover, smaller SUVs, bigger SUVs, and trucks are what police packages are going to now. So you'll see a lot of Ford Explorers out there, a lot of Tahoes, and Ford and
I
Chevy.
think
and
Ford
Dodge
only
trucks.
got, what, another year before they are only gonna make 1 sedan? Is it 2021 or 2022? Year they get rid of all the sedans, I think, or other than the Focus or.
So-
Keep like the Fiesta and the Focus.
So that's where we're at on those. If anybody has specific questions, my plan is to replace the Impalas that I still have with either an SUV or a pickup.
What happened, while you're on that, the car that got in the wreck or
Yeah.
whatever ended up happening with that?
That was all turned into insurance, and I know they were taking care of it.
Was it a sedan or was it a?
It was a sedan. It was an Impala, yeah. Yeah, that was the situation. For those that don't know, we had a deputy who had his emergency lights on and was slowing in traffic, and basically a speeder was coming the other way, so he turned his lights on. He was slowing in traffic, went to the right a little bit to do a U-turn, and one of the vehicles that was behind him must have thought that he was going to go off to the side and tried to go around him, and as he turned, they hit quarter panels. So
We actually received that check yesterday.
It's just being repaired then?
yes, that was just, yeah, there was, I mean, nothing that the insurance would have said, hey, this,
Yeah.
it's total.
Any other questions or?
He was gonna answer the guild.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I did meet with the mayor of Gilman and one of the aldermen, and back in early August, I think it was. They currently right now are going to advertise for, at least at that meeting, it was left, they were going to advertise for an officer and see what kind of interest they got in it. And then they were going to get back to me and sit down and talk again, because they were also wanting to reach out to another community leadership to see if that community would be interested in maybe doing a joint thing with Gilman and the county to provide some police services over there through a contract. So I have not heard back from Gilman as far as what luck they've had on applications and what the result of the meeting or the reach out to this other community was. But, I think there's gonna be some continued, well, I know there'll be some continued talks between, myself and the mayor over at Gilman. Just nothing planned as of yet till they figure out these other two things.
Well, I guess, unless somebody has something else for the sheriff, I'd just say, why don't we make those changes to the public safety?
Mhm.
Everybody's in agreement on that. That's-
Everything is well within the budget and wait on.
Yeah, I think, what else do we need to go over on the budget?
It was also requested that I have Ken Fairgree, submit a list of expenses, which I emailed to everybody, because we were in discussion about lowering that amount. That was gonna be given to Ida.
Okay. And I saw, did everyone see the email of what he
So
proposed budget?
basically, on his anticipated expenses, he had 12,000 for advertising, 1,200 for IT, 600 for telephone, 400 for postage, 200 for office supplies, 400 for meeting expenses, 250 for liability insurance, 300 for tax audit and preparation, and 36,000 for the executive director consulting contract, which came out to $51,400. Don't have any verification on retirement. He actually included on his sheet that he wants to propose returning to a part-time administrative assistant in the office.
So $51,410. And what do we contribute right now? Or what
for
we're
FY
contributing?
Yes, for FY20, and for past years, it's been 25,000, was proposed to lower that to 17,500.
And where else are they getting money? Seco?
Mhm.
They get money from pretty much all of the members of that organization, different banks and schools and so forth.
I mean, is Watsika given 25,000 too?
No.
I don't believe so, but I'm not sure on their amount that they get.
I have those numbers, I don't have them with me, I can't tell you the exact amounts. There's nobody comes anywhere close to what the county gives. And I also advised the board at the last meeting that the county's contribution is likely gonna be reduced.
Good job.
Okay, so,
I mean, that was, keep it at
John, do you
17,500.
have, since you go to the meetings or whatever, do you have any other thoughts that you think what we have in the budget proposed right now?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay. You have a lot more visibility to that than the rest of us do, so.
I'm sure there'll be some grumbling, as there usually is, and matters like that, but that's not gonna bankrupt them, that's for sure.
Okay. Then we'll leave that alone, and then, or
The
unless
other one
somebody has
was-
any other.
The Regional Office of Education, they have gotten, or this year they will get $80,447, and it was like that the previous years going back. They've gotten less, they've gotten 70,000 to 80,000, so I had the number in there at 75, because we had discussed lowering it. Do we want to keep it at 75?
Fine with me, but
Okay.
yeah.
And then Eric already talked to the transfer to joint dispatch is actually 78,000,
I saw that.
which matches the Watsika.
Yeah.
What's our goal in office? come up with a final budget.
Well, I mean, other than this group insurance thing, I think
We're
we're,
not with public defense, we have to,
oh, yeah.
because they've asked us for the insurance issue 2 years in a row, and the whole office is always paying.
What Sherry's asked, if you guys remember, Stanton Dodd came in and asked for to get group insurance.
And office expense line.
Right.
And it was discussed, I believe, at the previous meeting to not do the office expense line, and then I don't recall us talking about whether or not you wanted to provide benefits to them.
How much would benefits, just off the top of your head, how much would a benefit package for her, like if she was on our regular payroll, what would it be right here?
I would put it at around 20,000. I'm talking if she does the health insurance, IMRF, workman's comp, all that.
Would we have to do the IMRF and the workman's comp, or do we do that now?
We don't do any of it. They do IMRF. Right, they would, if you decide to do that, or if they could get IMRF, but, we would have to include any health insurance, vision, dental, the life insurance, and, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and then we'd also have to pay any of the, workman's comp or, I apologize, I'm drawing.
No, you're
Yeah.
fine, I get it, it's the whole.
What?
And is that the same way that it is then for the coroner? Because I know he gets insurance too.
Mhm.
Give the option of dropping that salary. Dropping that as a repayment.
And currently their salary increases in there at 3%.
Yeah, I saw that too. That 3% salary increase, and I'm just trying to make this look nice before making an offer. Instead of that 3% salary increase, what if we left the salary the same, gave 3% stipend on that salary to go towards her insurance or her office supplies, whichever it is. Doesn't cost us really any more except for the salary that she's not going to get. Or is that, I don't know I'm not real sure on how that payroll issue would work out, so.
Yeah, I mean, on the payroll side, we just add it to our normal journal entries for the month, but the thing with office expenses, she would have to turn in claims like all the others do.
Well, if we gave her the stipend, if we gave it to her as a stipend.
Right. Oh, okay, I
See
didn't
what
hear
I'm
that.
saying?
I'm sorry, I didn't
It would
hear
just
that.
be a stipend, so
Mhm.
she would have to determine.
Right, how she spends it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So when we move an actual pay raise, she'd get that stipend and she'd seek her own insurance or. That's just a thought.
If she's paying it all out of pocket, just give her a pay raise and be done with it.
Mm-hmm. That would be the easiest thing, is just to
Say,
do the
you're getting a pay
3%.
raise. If you want to spend it on insurance, then have at it.
Okay.
Yes.
I think if you talk to some of the individuals that have served in that office before, they probably would tell you that she's probably being overpaid right now because it's anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've done that, and that's what I've been told.
And how about mental health and 377?
Okay,
Or are we gonna leave?
Wait a
it?
minute, are we gonna,
Or
so
just-
just
I
leave
just
her in
think
as a 3% raise and don't do anything special, that would be the easiest thing to do, and then I agree with you, Michael, she
I
can
agree.
spend it on whatever she wants.
yes. That is what I would propose. Okay. And then,
I just wondered about mental health and the 377 board, if we were gonna try and minimize their distribution, or are we gonna leave that where it's at?
That's about as clear as mud to me, so I don't.
Well, those are levy items.
Yeah.
They're, that's what they're at?
Mhm.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
they're entitled to that by the state statute as far as the amounts that they're asking.
Well, we don't necessarily have to give the full amount, but
We don't necessarily have to. but-
Well, I just saw the
Marvin knows about this
377
stuff.
was,
We-
Increased to 591. They increased their,
That's based on the increase in the EAV, they're still within the .1 of what their maximum.
but they might not necessarily get that then, is that
No,
correct?
They just want the maximum.
Gotcha, okay. For budget purposes, it's better to.
708 board is not asking for their full amount.
Okay, Marvin had some.
Yeah, we usually levy the maximum amount.
Right, but you don't necessarily have.
377 levies the maximum, but not 708 board.
Okay, yeah, they haven't changed there.
yeah, they kept their the same. And have since it looks like 2017.
Okay. So we'll do what we normally do that. And then I think the only other thing I can think of is Mr. Stacy back here. I think he had a handful of items that we never had a final discussion on, or might need to pull that back up to refresh my memory. So that's the first thing.
So as of right now, the EMA budgets, the salaries in there, the 3% under everybody else. And then the office expense, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go to page. Office expense, dropped that to 2,000, which is what we did with some of the other department's office expenses. And then is, double check. Yeah, that was it, just the office expenses, which we kind of discussed last time, taking a look at, and a few of the departments' office expenses went down.
Excuse me.
And his, previous request for salary was 21,000.
Yeah. What did I request for office expense initially?
$2,030.
Okay, so you dropped it down to 2,000. Where am I thinking that
No. Your original request, I apologize, I misspoke.
No, it was three.
Your was $3,030 for, you wanted to replace some, I believe, whiteboards and stuff you were talking about. So it went down $1,000.
Thank you.
Yep. And his original request for salary was at the 21,000. I just put the 3% in there and match everybody else. It's whatever you guys want to say.
So right now it's at 17,750 for his half employment, or whatever you want to call it, and he was requesting 21. Right now, we had adjusted everybody back to 3%.
Yeah, so he's at 18,
So he's
200.
18,200 is where it's currently sitting in the numbers you've seen, but he had requested 21.
Mm-hmm.
John.
I'm in the position of being his supervisor as far as his EMA work is concerned, and I would say that if there's any way we can get that salary up to 21, it's more than deserving on his part. He has worked very hard. There's a few issues that he hasn't been able to complete, I agree. But I think his effort and his growth in that position justifies the amount of money that he's asking. I would certainly recommend that we try and accommodate that as well as possible.
I understand that there's been, this is my opinion, but that there's been, between COVID and the flood, all that stuff he's done a lot of stuff. I think before Sherry even says it, I know this disaster mitigation plan and all those there's several issues like that obviously we haven't gotten updated like we need to. I'm not, I know he puts in long hours and does all that kind of stuff, Eric, and I know you do, and it's appreciative because people like me are sitting on my couch when you're doing all that stuff, so I know there is stuff that is getting done that most of the county never even realizes is getting done by, not just you, but other people that work here for the county, and probably goes underappreciated, because we just don't even realize everything that's involved with it. But if we were gonna do something, I would say we need to tie it into getting some of these issues resolved, would be my proposal. I understand, maybe we need to do something, but there's also these outstanding items, whether the number's 21, whatever, I don't necessarily, I could be probably, I think if we're gonna do something above what the standard thing is, it needs to be contingent upon getting some of these things knocked out that have admittedly lingered a while. I don't know exactly how to do that or put that in the budget or whatever, but I think that needs to be part of the discussion at least. I don't know, Eric, if you got any comments about that or thoughts, or if anybody else does. That's just my 2 cents, which is 1 out of 20 people's 2 cents. So,
A question, if we further this discussion, do we need to go into executive session? Or not? The lead question. When discussing salary, usually county boards go into executive session.
probably, I guess, yeah. And I apologize.
Especially if you're talking about performance as well.
Okay, yeah.
So can we do that with this not on the agenda?
You're asking the guy that's not Mr. Robert Rules of Order, I know that.
The only comment I would make about it is that everybody that's appeared before this committee, their budget request for the coming year has had similar situations where they've talked about performance and salary increases, and we've not gone into executive session to accommodate those. I would question whether we need to do it in this particular instance.
I don't. I guess I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, while you ponder that, let's see. My request of $21,000 is well below what the average or mean is on the state level and the country level. And I figured that was about right, considering that a position in Iroquois County is not going to pay the average. I know that, that's understandable. I think that put me right above the 10th percentile. So that's why I thought my request for salary was justified. In addition, I attained an Illinois Professional Emergency Management Certificate. That's sort of shown professional growth beyond what other emergency managers you've had have done. I've given presentations at state conferences, and so just another show of where my professional growth has gone. I've been at the position for 6 years, so and we've managed to build the EMA program, and I want to continue to build the EMA program. I think we've fulfilled some capabilities that were not filled in the past, and we still have more capabilities that we need to fill. I want to continue to try to do that. The natural hazard mitigation plan has been a thorn in my side. I regret not having that done at this point in time. I regret not having it done a year ago. I had a public meeting scheduled, which is part of the process of getting that plan done. And then I had to cancel it due to COVID-19. I have not been able to jump back on that project since. If there are any other issues where more comments need to be made on that one, I'd invite them.
Yes, sir.
I guess I'd have to say, being on a member of the Board of Health, that there is a whole lot going on, and it's taken up a lot of time.
Sure.
Because of this COVID thing. There's just not enough hours, there's not enough people to get this all done. And, yeah, it'd be nice if the mitigation plan was done, but when the COVID is over, it'll be fine. There's just not enough people.
We didn't have COVID when this all started though. He, in this meeting, said it was going to be done last August. That's over a year ago. There was no COVID at that time. And I am not saying that I don't think Eric is a good person, and I have seen Eric in action, and I think he works very, very hard. But this plan is out of date for 6 years. I realize you've been here 6 years, so it was dumped in your lap. I have offered to help you. I printed it off. I offered to go through it with you. The thing that sticks in my craw the most is you said last August it was going to be done. That's the issue here. That's the issue. And then you talk about this iPause thing, and I think that's going to end up costing us some money now. Is anything done with that? Is that on board and up and running? I've got nothing.
To reply to your statement about natural hazard mitigation plan. Completely fair statement. And that's all I can say. I did say it be done earlier, and I did not get it done. So, fair statement, and Ms. Johnson has reached out to me, offered to help. And I have not utilized that. There are some things that I'm not able to throw in certain directions. When I can, I get help from my volunteers, get help from other people that offer help. Some things I'm not able to put off. So, iPause. If you want to discuss iPause, this year we had with the county provided funds to get a mass notification system. The purpose was I wanted to get something that was iPause capable. iPause is integrated public warning system. One of the main features was to be able to send emergency alerts to cell phones with Polygon. There's a warning gap in our capabilities, and I wanted to be able to fill that. We took some time to select a contractor, eventually selected HyperReach. And that company, we had a contract signed, and they've been paid. And then we had to acquire data for them to set up our system. We acquired the data from AT&T, and that's been acquired, and they're going to send me a bill this coming month. I think it's going to be like $500 or $600. It's within my budget. That data has been sent to AT&T, and I received an email. That data has been sent to HyperReach, and I received an email yesterday. HyperReach is setting up with me a webinar training, which is all part of the plan, to get the system up and going. So I'll open in a month or two. We're going to publish to the public, hey, here's a app you can download so we can send out warning alerts to you, so on and so forth.
Bill?
Can we take this?
Yeah. Maybe we should put it on the agenda. If we need to have a private session or whatever, we can.
Let's do it right.
We're gonna do it next finance committee, so we'll put that on the agenda. And I guess that'll be that and the insurance. Am I correct in saying will be our two outstanding items? Then we're good on everything else. Okay. Very good. And anybody else have anything else on the budget? Jill? Anybody?
I do not.
Okay. I think that's good. We're kind of getting things figured out here, so hopefully we can get it wrapped up. Meet next time.
I even have a little bit of an idea of where ASME's gonna be at, for next month too, if I can get Mr. Rubin to settle on a date.
Very good. Okay, then we move on to claims, and we also have Joel's in there should have been emailed, or everybody should have both the finance and the,
Lacey also emailed them to the two members that are not here that are on highways.
okay. So I guess if anybody has questions about the finance and or county highway, which Charlie's already vouched for.
I move we pass the claims and present.
Okay, and we have a second to pay the claims. Any questions or comments? If not, we'll take a vote.
Alt,
Yes.
Ballers,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sigma,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Johnson. Yes. McTaggart.
Yes. Okay. Any old business? New business?
I have one new business.
Okay.
And I emailed with Jill just a little bit about this, the Head Start. I don't know if you guys seen it in the news that the doors are shut.
No.
But the doors aren't gonna be shut, right, Jill? The doors are not gonna be shut. to Head
No,
Start.
they're still gonna be open, they're being taken over by a different agency, and they have expressed interest in, staying in the same location, taking over their rent. I did reach out to somebody yesterday to see about, because obviously we would like to have a new lease drawn up with their name on it versus, the
And I did pull that company out that you mentioned, and, this is what they do all the time.
Yes.
They were hired by the federal government to make sure that these programs didn't fall
Didn't
through
go
the cracks
away.
and die, so, I do think that
Yeah, I have a couple questions for them, so as, when I get contacted back, I'll have a few more answers, but.
We're also gonna have to consider that situation very carefully because we have demands on space in this building right now that are gonna have to be evaluated. Whether we're gonna be able to accommodate them or not.
Okay.
well, they have a lease.
Well,
The Eastern
Central Illinois
agency
have
has a
lease.
Head Start does not.
they have expressed interest in taking over their lease at the same amount.
Okay. Anything else? If not, need a motion to adjourn. Joe? Sherry? All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
What is that fun
All
thing?
right, let's get this puppy going here.
I've been looking at it on and off.